and thank you for your time today. I'm excited to introduce my Python Buddy, a locally or cloud hosting assistant that brings the principles of DevSecOps directly into a developer's daily workflow. This project is more than a code analyzer. It is a practical tool that helps Python developers move beyond syntax and logic to think about security, vulnerability management, and code hygiene as a part of their everyday development. Now for the application context. Most Python developer environments rely on separate static analysis tools like Bandit, MyPy, semgrep, Dodgy, and Vultr. Each useful, but isolated. Developers rarely have a single place to compare results or understand the meaning behind warnings. The problem? The tools exist, but the context is missing. A message about missing type hint or a possible injection vector means little without explanation or remediation guidance. Python Buddy works to close that gap. Through a clean web interface, users upload a Python file, select analyzers to run, and view each result in its own page. The system is designed for developers, auditors, and security teams who need immediate contextual feedback on code security and quality. By embedding DevSecOps practices directly into a development workflow, my Python Buddy makes secure coding approachable, visual, and repeatable, ensuring that the people who build the software are the same people who secure it. For the accomplished requirements, we have 1 through 7, 9 and 11 that were covered during sprints 1 and 2. The first, the system shall serve a Django-based framework configured with Uvicorn, previously Gunicorn, and persisted with SQLite, deployed on an Ubuntu OS-backed local workstation or EC2 instance, the workstation being for demonstration purposes only. Number 2, the system shall only allow the upload of a single Python file for the static code analyzer pipeline, enforced by validation checks and clearly handled exceptions. The system shall persist uploaded code files using unique identifiers for traceability. Number 4, the system shall define database models for analysis runs, findings, and advice, and apply migrations so models are visible in the Django admin panel. Number 5, system shall integrate the static analyzers Bandit, Dodgy, MyPy, semgrep, and Vultr via a unified pipeline that normalizes findings in a consistent format. Number 6, the system shall orchestrate analyzers through a reusable pipeline executed only when the user selects the Analyze button after uploading a file. Number 7, the system shall log execution metadata including analyzer versions, execution details, file hashes, and store results with severity and device details. Number 9, the system shall display in the front end alongside the submitted code with contextual findings. Number 11, the system shall automate test coverage with unit integration and accessibility aspects of the analyzer pipeline and front-end rendering. What do we have working today? Sprint 1 and 2 were completed with all planned features and good to have real-time updates with Django channels, enabling live updates from the orchestration pipeline. Meanwhile, the following technical hurdles were overcome: cloud configuration, dependency alignment through a dependency manager called Conda, and a full stack integration. Each analyzer implemented runs asynchronously, and when finished, its associated results were then normalized and put on a single template page that can change per analyzer result. This enables a unified review page. Users can view results side by side via an upload page or drill down into each analyzer's finding for detailed inspections. What are we working with? The list of analyzers are static, meaning they run on the code as is. Bandit scans for common security vulnerabilities such as injection risks, unsafe calls, and improper input handling. Dodgy identifies insecure code patterns and bad practices like hard-coded passwords or unsafe file operations. MyPy checks type correctness, ensuring variables and functions follow defined hints for a safer, more predictable behavior. SEMGREP performs semantic code analysis, detecting logic flaws and enforcing custom security or style rules across the code base. Vultr searches for dead or unused code, helping developers keep projects lean and maintainable. For the technical challenges we overcame, building this system required refreshing and combining several skill sets. AWS EC2 hosting. Refined my cloud deployment skills to run a Django application that will eventually scale to GPU-enabled instances as we get to the LLM integration to generate the advice for the respective code findings. With full-stack development with Django, I had to re-engage in end-to-end development, model view templates, and Redis real-time status updates for analyzer execution, although we stopped at the in-memory portion of it. We didn't implement Redis Live because it's a minimally viable product. Now, working with Django and reintroduced me to the model controller presentation pattern, where models define data, views handle logic, and templates manage the interface. It is conceptually similar to model view controller, or MVC pattern, that I learned in Java Spring, so the transition felt natural, even though Django View acts as the controller and the templates handle presentation. This background helped me quickly reconnect persistence, orchestration, and front-end rendering into a cohesive workflow. Front-end debugging was quite a bear, and still is. Balanced troubleshooting between Django templates, browser dev tools, and the IDE to fix HTML and JavaScript issues became quite burdensome, and the ability to handle these better need to be refined in the future. Dependency management, brushed back up on my Conda knowledge, had to get past some end-user license agreement troubles, which Directions Online solved. It was a bear, though, because I wasn't able to set up my environment at all, and eventually I got to it. And Conda itself managed package versions and ensures an environment consistency across local and cloud deployments. So I could potentially have everything down to the hash to get up and running on the cloud when you can freeze in time and have exactly what you need to deploy your application. Now, two things for GitHub: project management and actions. The project management, where I plan and track milestones independently with sprint deliverables, quite a number of issues with communication between me and, let's say, my project lead. Let's call him the professor. Needed improvement. Hour by hour, got a young child. About hour 15 through 18 of the day is when I can actually get into my stuff. So hour by hour did not match up. Also, I would just leave it at that. So for GitHub Actions, one thing, I haven't worked with these before, but when I dove into it, this thing was, once I learned it, I was able to automatically publish code coverage updates. So it prints in a log, go to this code coverage update, and then automatic testing. It's a good refresher on the user story 11 for the requirement. Also, that's 11 for automated unit testing. Now, throughout this, each challenge reinforced DevSecOps principles that now underpin the reliability, auditability, and maintainability of my buddy Python. Now, what's next? We're going to shift from raw analysis to a more intelligent, perhaps interactive conversation between the user and the large language model that we're going to train and implement. My goal for the users is to see the following. Now, instead of only seeing SQL injection risk, a user will read, this variable is concatenated into a query, parameterize it to prevent injection. That level of context turns my Python buddy from a static scanner into a coding mentor that builds stronger, secure development habits. The farthest reach goal is to have a level of interactivity where one can follow up with the LLM for clarification or next steps for the code. So picture this. You have, and I'll go over this in my demo. You have your code results. Lean back, close your eyes, and say, okay, what do I want to see in an end user interface where I'm seeing the metadata for the run? I see my findings table. I see my close to an IDE. I got close to it. I didn't get exactly. So you have your code laid out, and then at the bottom or in another applicable side, we have the simplest user face that I can think of as Google. You just have your Google up, and you type your question, and we can even populate it saying, hey, greetings. You are currently looking at Vulture, or you're currently looking at Bandit, etc. How may I help you? And you type in there, hey, how do I move to rectify this issue? And then we can prompt engineer perhaps an ability to say, okay, warning you that you're ultimately responsible for the end code that pops out. We could generate code, or we can limit it to say, hey, I do not generate code due to liability concerns. I'm really iffy about that, but let's say we're good to go on the code generation. We can have it where it says, okay, with proper code commenting, show me how to fix this vulnerability, or how do I mitigate it? Like, let's say we have a sub process and shell doesn't equal, I forgot what was it, shell equals false or shell equals true. Stinks it was one of my sample files, but we're going to come across it. You got to implement sub process in a certain way, and then it shows you, and then you knock it out, or you say, okay, and I had to do this in my project. I want the ability to say, we need to ignore this for Bandit. And then it types in the no pragma next to it, and then you can go through your associated chain of command to say, hey, I've alleviated concerns of this. It doesn't take user data, and it only works with in-system data, and nothing can be injected in it. And then I included an ability to go ahead and skip over it. That could also be done as well. Now, software architecture. Now, due to the maturity of the underlying software, Django was chosen with Redis for, at least the local in-memory version, Redis for persistence, Uvicorn, moving on for Gunicorn, which is HTTPS over HTTP, and SQLite for the database. Were chosen for their asynchronous tasking, performance, and lightweight persistent with a minimally viable product deployment. Now, due to previous experience, AWS was chosen due to the ease of which one can perform deployment with little to no overhead. I go to my default VPC, I boot up make sure I have a public subnet, boot up my EC2 instance, and boom, I'm good. I'm not doing ECS tasking. I'm not doing Lambda functions with static hosting. It's just a pure EC2 instance, and then eventually we can branch out things as we move from the MVP, which I plan on doing as I get back into the swing of things of doing production deployments. Concept of operations. Users upload a Python script, select analyzers, and trigger execution through asynchronous tasks managed by Redis and Django channels. The pipeline orchestrator executes analyzers, normalizes results, and streams updates back to the upload page in real time. From a perspective of a full-stack developer, Django manages submitted files, runs, and inline findings. Through the views and orchestration logic associated, HTML templates render results with live updates and filtering options. Each analyzer page will soon include its own LLM-based advice panel, as we talked about previously, providing immediate contextual guidance instead of routing users to a consolidated summary page. As a minimally viable product, the following are implemented at a minimum level. Security and maintainability, which are non-functional requirements, are enabled by pre-commit checks prior to each git commit. With that being said, we are going to move on to the demonstration. Demonstration is going to involve the logging in, and actually, let's just move to it. Let's move this up here. All right, let me log in. All right. So, one thing I loved about Django is it handled a lot of the things, logging in, administration of models, and Uvicorns helped me with my HTTPS hosting, so I could focus specifically on technology or implementation functionality. So I'm going to go ahead and log in as an admin. All right, simple page. So we will now go through one at a time for our analyzers. Let's start with Bandit. So, Bandit, I have a test, analyze, pick our analysis, boom, done. Let's see here. Okay, now that we completed analysis, let's dive into it. We see that let's see here. Okay, so on here we have, go to this. Okay, so let's go from top to bottom. Analyze the results for Bandit. we can open up the documentation. We have the status, we have our file, and we have the number of findings, start and completion date, and our findings table. Of note here, you see that the table was kind of discombobulated. I don't consider that too much of a bug, but that does need to be addressed when you first load the page. But with each one of these, we have a custom sort from here because alphabetical does not match what we're looking at. So we got low, medium, and high. It needs to be sorted as such. We also have critical, and we have dodgy, and we have error, which way MyPy checks stuff. So we sort through severity. We got that. Rule ID, we can sort by that as well. Simple sorting for the rest of the entries. Now, as we go through this, let's go to, let's see here, use of exec detected. Boom. This thing color codes and approximates. That's what I was saying with the IDE level kind of setup I have. The spacing was quite a bear to get going. So this is about the best I can do without like a professional person coming in and saying, hey, here's how you reduce the spacing, etc. This actually looked a lot worse when I started. But you click each of these, you can go exactly to where you need to go on here. So let's see here. The point of this presentation is not to go into the security findings, but just to show the overall functionality. Now let's do another one. Let's go to Vulture. Upload, analyze, Vulture. All right. All the way over. Now, we see unused variable. Oh, and also of note, this file is a code comment that states, let's see here. Oh, okay. So we see that bandit can also be triggered in here. Let me see if I can find that in my notes. Let's see here. Oh, okay. Never mind on that. I was out of date on my notes. So let's go back to the upload page after we go to our sorting mechanism. As you can see, C comes before H and M, but it's on the other side of things, so that's how we got our sorting function. And also we have our documents as well. And it looks like Vulture's documentation needs to be updated. It worked before. That's a little frustrating. Okay. So we got that. Check, check. Okay. We're going to go through the other three files. Dodgy. Okay, Dodgy is processed. Let's go to MyPy. And let's see here. Everything's completing live. Big report I had was that we were running into issues with the live update. SimGrep does take a second, and I'm going to review my notes for about 10-15 seconds. Nope, okay, they already went through. And we already did Vulture. So other two aspects of this menu are, we just went through successfully uploading files. We go through the functionality of when we submit a bad file. There was a problem with your upload, see error below, only Python file is allowed. So that goes through the test of single file upload to say, hey, you're only allowed to upload this kind of file. All right, we are going to review through the table. Let's see here. We got our not requested. We got our processed. Now we're going to run them all at once. Deserialization. Let's go ahead and run all these at once. As you can see, updating live. Let's give SimGrep a second. All right, processed. After I upload my last file, let's go two more. I want to see if these updates are not just temporary, or not temporary, if my live updates are actually working. SimGrep takes a second. Okay, and we got one more. Okay, let's see here. Go through everything. And one more aspect that we're going to test after we see this is we're going to rerun a file. Let's rerun Dodgy. Dodgy file already exists in the table. Do you want to reanalyze it? Yes, I do. So with Dodgy, I want to go ahead and run all of them. And it lets me. And there we go. Looks like we did have an issue. Okay, so that's a note. I'm going to look at the duplicate Dodgies that pop up. Okay, I'm going to take that note here. Everything else seems to be working okay. All right, so since we did that, we went over the sorting functionality. Let's see here. We did the code line. All right. Let me show you where I want to do the LLM advice. So let me see. Let's see here. Audit eval. Okay. The advice statement is probably going to go either to the left or right, or I'll have this the two centered, so that you can sit down and type in your advice, your questions, and then get your advice. More to come on that in the next demo. All right, one more thing to test is our administration. Got our submitted files, and I want to wipe the menu. Delete submitted files. Oh, whoops, here we go. Delete submitted files, go. Boom. And all of our files are gone. That's one of the demonstrations. We can do bandit, upload, analyze. Let's see here, bandit. All right. Let's go to admin one more time. We already did the submitted files, runs. We have bandit. We look at the metadata here. We can see all of our metadata. Let's see here. Can I actually... All right. Can we delete a finding? Medium B102. Let's delete that finding. Let's go back to our page. B102. Let's see here. All right. Runs. Oh, okay. And I went ahead and deleted it. Let's see here. Go through that. Let's upload it one more time. Admin. Runs. And let's go through this. Delete a run. Go. All right. All right. And then we have the ability to still run things, and then we can go back and run it again. There we go. So I do need to fix the findings deletion process on there. All right. So go back to that, and that concludes the demonstration of the application itself. Now for the testing. Let's minimize this menu, or go to this. Okay. So during sprints 1 and 2, I focused quite a lot of the effort into the functionality and piecemeal testing of different aspects of the code. We currently stand at a good percentage of the code being tested, as we will see when we get to the code coverage report that is automatically hosted within each push. Now, I have 33 tests encompassing 51 methods. I need time in the future to assemble a formal testing report, so we're going to go through piecemeal functionality of the application. Now, for the unit testing is the foundation of reliable software. It ensures every building block of the application works as intended before being combined with the others. By catching small issues early, we avoid compounding problems later in integration or deployment. Now, this process keeps our core predictable, consistent, and easy to maintain. For the unit tests that I did, let's go to the traceability matrix. We went through, let me minimize this. Okay, so what we went through, go to, instead of the split editor, I'll go to this. Now we see everything. So I got unit tests. All the unit testing was mostly with user story 11, because that was automated unit tests. And we went through our upload views, our pre-commit hook, changing our password, and then we have many different aspects of the file view. but it tested the JSON responses, input filing handling. Is it saved properly? Is it persisted properly? Can I remove and delete stuff from the database? And then we have the file pathway is saying, hey, we upload a file. We have a taskings that pick and execute a separate thread for each analyzer. And then we have our analyzer itself. We have to test clean files, vulnerable files, test and get it so that we have specific results matched up as they're supposed to be within those ringer tests. So we have bandit ringer test, dodgy, MyPy, semgrep, and vulture. Those all have their own respective dictionary JSONs, and it has to run through the analyzer and output exactly as we have against those files. That covers the unit testing. Now, the user acceptance testing is going through putting the software in the hands of the ultimate judge, the user. It ensures that the system not only meets the functional expectations, but also feels intuitive and trustworthy. This phase is about confidence, confirming that the final product behaves as promised and provides real value. It's the final bridge between engineering assurance and user satisfaction. As you can see, we almost got there with this demonstration of the MVP. Two things are going to be addressed by week's end. It was missed for this presentation. I'll take the dings, but it was the appearance of double dodgies on our main menu, and it was the inline findings. When I deleted it, it deleted the run. So what I have to do is I'll look at this tonight and tomorrow, and I will get commits in the respective in the analyzer scaffolding branch, and then I will check the user acceptance testing to see if we got it to where I walk through that. And what it'll probably be is a new user acceptance test, and we will put user acceptance test 401, and we'll probably look at it to see if we can add to that, or we will have a UAT-04-02, and it'll be the logging onto the menu and running a file, and then it'll be delete a submitted file, or it'll be backwards to say, hey, from the run, you have your finding, delete it, doesn't affect anything, you still have the rest of the run, delete the run, it doesn't affect the submitted file, and then the submitted file, it clears everything out. That would be the plan. Now, we also have, with that, let me pause for a sec, collect my thoughts. I will go ahead and just read through the list of what we have, and I think we demonstrated most of it. Just to recall, single file Python script upload, we covered that with a clean file, or a good file and a bad file. We tested our ringer tests, and we also tested a couple files where we ran everything. There was no errors in the status update itself, going back to the dodgies, duplicate dodgies, and then, nope, that was it. All right, file persistence. File persistence was tested where we upload and we saw our respective models. We were able to delete it up to a certain point, and then we were able to clear our menu. Database models and administration, we already went through that. Analyzer integration, we showed that. There is a correction. I need to look at the documentation one more time and ensure that when we click on documentation, it pops up. So that could be a UAT 0501 extension or UAT 0502. Pipeline orchestration. When we go through and we submit a file in its respective analyzers, it goes through. We've demonstrated that. Metadata logging. For the file execution details, the hashes appear in the upload table. We covered that down. And then we have the full lifecycle through analyzer pipeline. Demonstrated that. Now, two more tests under the system test. Let's see here. System testing validates that the application behaves correctly in its full environment. It's the checkpoint where individual parts come together to form a cohesive working system. This test helps confirm that real-world conditions, networking, configurations, and dependencies all align and deliver a seamless experience. It's about proving that the system doesn't just work in theory, but in practice. So what we have on here for the the system testing is we have user access to the application and super user access to the application. One thing that I don't think we tested, and let me see if I'll put this on here. This is going to become more prevalent. Okay. So one of the endpoints on here was to check the, and I can zoom in, is to check the health of the application. This is just a sample print. We haven't even published, I think we'll get to the end of this project by the time we publish version 1 for major. Because I am a DevSecOps person, I do not publish software. So what we'll probably do is when I exit this project and start working on it for real, we will start with 1, we'll do bug fixes, and then we'll do our minor updates. But with the health of the version, expansion for our NVIDIA graphics card, we're not going to do AMD, and we're not going to do Intel. It can be done. I've done it in the past. It is way too big of a pain. So what we're going to do is everything regarding the health of this application will be put in this Health Z extension. Let's see here. What else we got? Okay, in conclusion, so far, all these tests have passed. When we go to the code coverage, let's see here. Do we have the code coverage next? Let's see here. Let me collect my thoughts for a second. Okay, so just to reiterate, all the tests on here have passed. We found during the scope of this presentation a few bugs that require fixing. It hasn't broken any major functionality. We still get our files scanned, real-time updates. Oh, and by the way, the real-time updates were fixed via the ability to, and I could probably even, I'm probably even look at it. It said don't go in the code, but I'm going to go in the code for this one thing. So let's go ahead and bring this up. I didn't know you can move icons around. That's weird. Okay, so let's go to documentation, base application, taskings. All right, this is what took me 2 weeks to figure out. And also, apparently random's not secure, so I used my own bandit scanner to find that setting up random did not work as well. We have between, and let's see here, 05 and 06. Okay, I'm going to have to fix that in my weekly. That'll also be something I fixed. Okay, so what happens here is I staggered the time. What was happening is MyPy, Bandit, Dodgy were completing too quickly. So I staggered the time, and I might not even do that. I might need to just put like just wait 0.5 milliseconds. But I went ahead and staggered it, and I haven't had a collision. And I haven't, I think it wasn't actually a collision issue. I think it was the fact that it was finishing too quickly. It was completed, and then the completed got done before the requested. But that is a subject for a production and beyond the scope of a minimally viable product. I spent way too much time as it is based on curiosity and thinking I could actually knock it out past what it is. Simplest solution is always the best. Okay. All right, we are going to the code coverage report. So let's go ahead and go down to here. I'm going to go to GitHub Actions. I'm going to click on this, and then I'm going to bring this down. All right, view code coverage report. I have a link we can click on. Scroll all the way to the bottom. We have 2 percentages. I don't know how this happens, but in the weekly, it's going to be between 97 and 98 because locally it's 98, 97 on the site. So I'm going to publish the one that I have the picture on. But what we're looking at is 97% code coverage. The other big issue I've had with Django is that it is, I think, what was that, MCP instead of MVC. There are aspects of testing the Java code and the HTML that I have not found yet. So what we're testing is primarily the Python, but the Python integrates directly into the JavaScript. So if we come across an error or things are not being done correctly, functionality-wise, then it's going to pop hot. What you saw with the dodgies and the models were what I need to have created to test on there, and that's user acceptance tests. Those are, I always do those manually. I have seen an application that functions where it programmatically walks through stuff. Not in my wheelhouse. I'm not a front-end developer. I thought it was Cucumber. Celery and Redis are persistence applications, but I could have sworn it was Cucumber. And I'm not even sure if it's integrated with Django. So enough of me yakking about that. Our code coverage, 97%. And while I can actually, let's get this back up here, and I'm going to talk about the GitHub project itself. So I'm going to go to here, and then I am going to prove that this thing actually works. Let me see here, 1959. All right, so while that goes through, we're going to go through the GitHub project. Hold on, there we go. Okay, so what we're looking at here, in conclusion, is we have Sprint 2 all done. We do have some things to tidy up, which I'm going to do tonight, and tomorrow. Sprint 3, LLM training and upload, is up next. Our backlog is our LLM Django integration, and I put everything else as no status because I'll go through one of these at a time to say, hey, we're ready to get our Colab notebook open, we're ready to get our subscription because I'm going to try to get an A100, and then I got to walk through the ability to train this. I need hand holding. I got a source. From just the basic read, we got an alpaca data set to train with. It doesn't have the ability to create the model that I need yet, so I need to dive into creating GGUF, a single file that can be put in here. Got quite a lot to do. What we're looking forward to is going through requirement and user story and requirements are, functional requirements are synonymous. We got 12, 13, and 14. We're going to focus on recording our information to make sure we're doing our fine tuning correctly. We're going to export to GGUF, and then we're going to store the associated artifacts appropriately in Google Drive, etc. I think that is the basis for everything else. Let me go. Oh, okay. We can go back into backlog. That's pretty much it for the planning on this. Let's go. Let me see what else I got on my notes here. All right. Let's go to conclusion. And what do we want to use for a conclusion menu? We'll just stick to the sprint menu. So, teamwork. This was an individual project. And as you could see, I was carrying that water, but we had a little bit of spills. It was a rough start to the capstone. I think I've recovered properly. Got in contact with Professor numerous times. Thank you. As you're watching this, thank you for your cooperation. It has been quite rough with a little kid, one bloodshot eye, working, like I said, hour 15 through 18 to get this project up and running. The burden for completing the project sprints and associated documentation was a lot to take on. I ended up overloading myself. I am an extreme programmer, not by want. It is by desire to stay employed and the way the government works. So transitioning to the agile mode, the way I'm looking at things, I've never had this done in front of me. And you could probably see it in hours estimation. I will put 4 hours for something. It'll take me 1 hour. I ain't going to change a thing. Because next day it'll be a 1 hour task and it'll take me 5 hours. The task in regards to process deconfliction, where it was just completing too quickly, and I have yet to prove myself wrong with that, and pass the MVP when I process. And I think if I'm looking at the alpaca data set, I can do mass processing to test how well this application works based on that data set. But that will be out of the scope of this project. But I feel like I've come a long way, and using GitHub to manage my stuff, communication with the professor, and getting something online. By myself, the peer review would be nice if I could go through this again with this exact same project with people willing to work with me. But can't redo things. And I look forward to finishing my second master's and being done with it for now, until I'm done having kids. Now to dive into something that went well. Now, what really went well for the second sprint was everything coming together. It didn't look good on the first sprint because I just went and started doing everything. User stories were mixed up. Going back to the ding on myself, the user stories were completely imbalanced. I ended up doing almost everything at once and then not reporting it, needing to. But it came together. We have a functioning application. We just have a few spills. We need to fix those spills and bugs. The documentation I have, and I can bring back up my PyCharm. Let's go ahead and minimize this. Let's go ahead and go back to PyCharm. And for the formal testing report, I can just go in here, and I might even be able to programmatically create a test document from all of my markdowns. Of which we just look at this. It's boom, user documentation ready to go, and it's easily updated. I've actually had to do several commits on analyzer, taskings, etc. And I was able to get in here, and I even have the ability to go, okay, what was I looking at? Okay, so this is this file. The class is here. Okay, I go to that class. I figure out what's being tested. Boom. These can probably be done better, but this is really good for what we're for one person looking to get things done quickly. Let's see here. I just want to end on what went well. It was done in my head, and Kentucky windage was exercised to an nth degree. And with future Agile, including scaled Agile, I think it's SAFE, it's called, I think I'm prepared to take those on, because what I do is I will either do the wireframes, or with the ability of such functionality programs such as Django, bring it up and running, do test prints. And that's where we didn't really see this come in. Test prints, I brought up the user interface and I tested it. I'm a hands-on person. If the professional requirements are otherwise, I will drag up the wire diagrams. But I'll just state the person, I'm not a front-end expert. I'm not going to get on Figma unless I'm allowed to, and I'm given enough time, or other interface mechanisms to get things up and running. So it's in my head, translating it seemed to have, in conclusion, worked pretty well. Let's see here. Let me collect my thoughts. Now, what was really challenging was getting the code to function as intended. It was in my head, and getting it to that was quite hard. But once it did, the ease of which I set up my taskings to cascade changes, once I got Bandit up and running, it was a lot of copying and pasting. That in and of itself created some problems, because if you have a bug, of which you saw a few, I fixed quite a lot. I had to cascade those changes all the way down. So not only do you have those duplication of effort, I had to fix that. Now we're working on that, in that we will have, like, let's say, the sample HTML and JavaScript. We have a list, we have Bandit, etc. in a list, and then we iterate through it, then we do exactly what we need to do. Let me see here. The most challenging to implement was MyPy, because I went on a wild goose chase trying to get the sub-processing work, among other things, when in fact it was just processing too fast. And I was even working on executing segregated execution spaces. I think I got this right, but when we move into production, I'm gonna overload this thing to see if we are not getting race conditions, among some other things. I think I need a minimum of like 100 to 1,000 files processing at once, which I have a beefy desktop here. I don't think I'll need the cloud for that, and we're gonna figure out if we actually needed to do that. But that was challenging. Let's see here. The analysis results page of what you looked at, where you saw the metadata findings and then the code, that was really challenging. The custom sorting was annoying, but the ability to click on a row and to go into that, that was front end kung fu. That was pretty challenging. Let me see here, and what else? Now, what helped me out through all this? Django. I was able to have an apparatus where I could log in, do model management, and through the tools I implemented, actually use that to help me correct things and help me keep clean. The dev tools, Stack Overflow, Google, and let's see here. I use the Brave browser for the console logging, and then the one thing of which I do when I have a lot of code is the ungodly amount of print statements. And then that's actually the lack of print statements is how I found that the project wasn't being printed too fast, because I was actually only getting print statements for MyPy and SemGrep, and MyPy wasn't the problem; it was the other ones. So let's see here. I am going to pause for a second, and let's see here. Downloads. and look through this. Let's see here. We covered that. We covered project review. Okay. So again, my name is Patrick Flanagan. You have just been briefed on My Python Buddy. This is for the first of, I think, 2 demos for this capstone project for SWENG 894. I appreciate your time and looking forward to the next 2 sprints, LLM integration, and better presentation for a end-to-end application of which will give you your vulnerability findings and the ability to correct them and the road to correct them through hopefully an interactive chatbot. Take care.